¿Qué lo que?
Que lo Kentucky.
Pero no, my bros. No, guys, we want to just say welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with my brothers. These are brothers that I've been with 15 plus years. And we're here on a weekend on a guys hangout. Right? No, and I love everybody here, and everyone here has had an impact in my life. And we've walked in faith together, and we've been in the same church before, and have different experiences together, ups and downs. And no, I'm just excited just to be this hangout. You know, I want to thank Bram because he set this up. En realidad, no, and Bram is always doing it. He's always setting up the hangouts. If you notice. So yeah. Shout out to Bram.
Shout out to Gio.
Pero no,
I'm the darkest person here.
You good? We got good lighting on you, bro. Don't worry.
It's perfect because I'm in the middle, so it's like, you know, chocolate thunders.
Good. So Nana, just for the video and people who don't know you, just tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and what you do. You know, so just for the people who don't know who you are. Vamos a darle vuelta.
Like, what's the question?
Now, just tell us a little bit about you, where you from, and what do you do?
All right. I'm from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Born and raised until I was 11. Then came to the U.S. And currently I work with a non-emergency medical transportation company, Metro Luxury. Free advertising right there. And yeah, pretty much married, 2 children. Yeah.
How long you been married now?
It's gonna be 14 years in about a month. 15 years, sorry.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
No, you're the one you're the OG with the kids and the longest married. What, any advice for us as the OG?
Nah, it's what is it? As how they say, it's not you're not trying to win. It's a marathon. It's not it's you learn things every day, you make mistakes all the time, and you just gotta keep going and learning from them. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Awesome. Now here with my brother Roniel Tapia.
Yo,
Ja.
what is good in the
Tú eres
hood?
yanquita con esa gorra.
I am a Yankee fan,
Ja.
a big fan of the Yankees since I was originally from the Boogie Down Bronx. But like my brother Kel said, you know, Braylon, right? Braylon Roniel Tapia, originally from Las Guasumas City in Moca, born in Dominican Republic, raised in New York in the Bronx, and it's definitely been such an impacting journey, right? Because I remember, you know, thinking, oh wow, you know, like we're going somewhere else, right? 32 years ago, and when I first came to New York, and what a transition that was, you know, coming from a campo, right, a ranch style place where nature is abundant, and it was all about family and close friendships in a very tight-knit community, coming to the big city, right, New York. That's the dream, I think, of almost everybody, and definitely has been a journey that has impacted my life, my family's life, and you know, pretty much I still have mad love for Dominican Republic. It's always been a dream of mine to go back and live there one day, but I'm a Bronx kid, even though I live in Harlem for the past 4 years, and you know, I work as a manager of recruitment for Columbia University, and it's been almost 12 years, and it's been such an amazing ride so far, right? One of the best things that I love about my job is really helping people, you know, and being able to kind of plant the seed in people's lives that want to make it into Colombia. It's not an easy place to get into, even to find a job. So the fact that I'm there it's really, for me, it's like, you know what's been given to me, I want to pass it on. And however I can, I definitely want to help as much as I can. And I have three beautiful kids, right? Braden, Gigi, and Eden Joy. And then they're three of my greatest blessings. And for me, every day I look forward to every day because they motivate me, right? And really to be a better person, to be a better father. And I learned that from not having my dad present in my life. So for me, it's not to be a perfect dad, but to be a present dad. And that's what's impactful for me. And I always said that I never wanted to compromise my time with my kids. And for me, the most important thing in my life is that it's really being able to spend that time, because it is an investment, right? So this is an amazing time, right? Brotherhood and friendships, and these are long lasting friendships. These are friendships that I value, that last a lifetime. So thank you, Kels.
Claro.
I love you guys, and it's definitely worth it being here.
Yeah.
And I needed a mental health break.
Yeah. No, it's a good weekend just to step away and be with us, just men, no kids. Just hang out together.
Yes,
Much needed.
for sure.
Ja.
Pass on the mic to my brother Gio.
Noise.
Number one.
I mean, I'm Giovanni Santos. I've been married 10 years to Jaciel. I have two beautiful kids, work in law enforcement, and I like Roniel was saying, it's to me it's it brings out a joy in my heart to just have this moment where not just having this session for your podcast, but just spending time with you guys in general. I mean, even this to me is essential because you guys, I hold you guys dear, and I'm glad I'm here, and let's ready to rock and roll. Have a good weekend. I only get to enjoy one day of it, but you know what? Let's make the best of it. Let's make it the best day.
That's right. Yeah.
And what was the other question you wanted to ask?
Nah, that's it.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Well, I'm Frank. I'm from Peru, and what else? I work in the financial industry for almost 7 years. I've been married with Elizabeth for almost 7 years as well, and we have a 14 months baby. Our daughter Isabella. We love her a lot, and comparing with you guys, I'm kind of like the new dad
Right.
in the group. I look up to you guys. I admire you. Yes, I been learning so many things from you guys, and I'm thankful for that.
That's good, man. And obviously my name is, me. My name is Kelvin. I'm from the Bronx, and I work for New York City Transit. I'm a bus driver. Been doing that 11 years now, and yeah, just giving my life to God and just taking it a day at a time, and just giving God my everything and everything I can. So in that, I wanted to segue also in that, like, just to talk about, like, what's the most impactful thing that has been in your life, in your faith, like, and how has that impacted you? Mainly, how has your faith impacted you in your walk now? Because I know we're all here, we're all believers in God and Jesus, and like now in your chapter of your life now, like, how has your faith impacted you? So we wanted to go around and just anybody, like, how you see your life now, and how has your faith impacted you?
I think faith has always been something, even before coming to Christ, like, fully. Because my mom has been a Christian ever since I can like have reason. But I think for me in particular, like, I'm not gonna say that I'm doing the best right now when it comes to, like, my faith, but the root is there, and obviously I could do better with my walk with God and the things that I need to do. But I think like one of the things that I have learned the most that faith comes into light a lot is when things are going like eerie, when things are going bad. You know, or you guys are aware, you know, I've had a lot of like health scares or like throughout my life. And not only health scare, like with the most recent thing with like with the home and stuff like that. And I feel like throughout the whole process, not saying that it's not stressful, not saying that it's not hard, but just learning that, you know, each day comes in with its own things. You know, I don't have to worry about tomorrow because I understand, you know, that God has like this, like just like a like in the midst of the struggle, there's a peace.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, in my like in my mind and everything, like I'm thinking about it, but at the same time I'm like, well, he's got me, you know, like he's got my bag. Like time and time again he has shown up, and like I have no reason to doubt him. And I think at the end of the day, you know, it kind of like mellows me down. You know, I work I think it's interesting, you know, between everything that has happened with my health and working in customer service for 16 years, you learn like to deal with things. Like, you know, when people call you customer service, like 9 out of 10 times, it's not for something good. It's to fight. It's to argue. It's to like, you know, to demand something. And you learn how to cope with that. And you are like, I remember usually when people will go, I think it was the campaign, I think it was Michelle Obama. I forgot who it was. That it was like when they go high, we like when they go low, we go high, something like that. You know, like I did the opposite. When people will go high because they were upset, I will go low. You know, because like, people don't know how to react when you're not reacting. You know, so like between that and my health scare and stuff like that, I feel like my faith has taught me like in my daily life to like be still and know that he is God, you know, like he is faithful. Like I don't, you know, my humanity tells me one thing, but my faith tells me another thing, you know. So that's, I think that's the biggest thing that I have walked with, like throughout my walk with God. Like you just like his faithfulness, not because of me, but because who he is.
Yeah, that's I notice like in my faith, it's like I need it, you know, like ever since I was introduced to God, and we all met each other, you know, through in church. You know, I remember meeting you, Bram, and you invited me to a hangout after church, and that's how like we first clicked, and each one of you guys, you know, like we all met in church, right? And we've all been in leadership and worked together, like in leadership together with the youth, and it's really like impacted. Like obviously we've kept this bond together in our brotherhood, and it has kept us knitted together like for life, you know. And I noticed like that one thing that really bonded us was our belief in Christ, you know, like our faith. Because no lie, like if we didn't believe, if none of y'all believed in God, we wouldn't probably hang out, you know. Like that was our major link.
Our differences like would have been hard to
Right? Like
yeah.
imagine trying to hang out and we didn't have Christ in our life. We probably wouldn't hang out with some of us.
Yeah.
Right. Pero not most definitely like that connection to God and has, like you said, held me down in my moments, you know, my struggle, maybe in my marriage or in any moments of my life. I've learned to like just be still and hang on to God and like my daily walk, you know, like when people are disrespectful or you get bad news or good news, and you know, learning to humble yourself and just in this walk, like, you know, dreaming and yeah, it's key, man. And my faith has held me down, and through like, you know how to cope with pain, you know, like, you know, that you surrender that to God, and in that essence, has how I feel my faith has impacted me. But yeah, anyways, I digress. to my brother, or who else wants to share of how your faith has impacted you in your daily walk, and in your chapter of your life now, or
I mean, for me, when I think about faith, I think about something that is not there, but we know it exists. You know, it's like saying, you know what, like you're gonna wake up every day and know that He is with you. He is walking with you. He is behind you. You know, He is like the body of the armor of Christ, but yet the body and the armor of Christ, there's nothing that supports your back but Him. You know, I just feel like in our walk in our faith, we remain sustainable through Him. You know, we become bonded with Him. We become enamored with Him. And one of the things that I utilize in my walk with Christ is faith, because believe it or not, with the kind of career that I have, I need to rely on faith to feel like you know what, I'm gonna be okay. You know what I mean? We think about people in the Bible where where God is mentioning to us that we always have to live by faith, not by sight. You know what? Like sometimes we could see that that some people need faith, but guess what? We are the faith for that, so that they could be able to see. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I think that when it comes to faith, it is an everyday aspect of our lives. It is something that we have to keep hanging on to. Even though that it's not okay at the moment, even though we are going through afflictions, even though there is a process that we're going through in our lives, you know what I mean? And one thing that has restored my faith is understanding that even though I may have given up on myself, He never stops believing in me, and that allows me to actually elevate my faith to new levels, because when we actually are connected through faith, we are connected through the Spirit, and we are able to actually hear Him speak to us. Because why? Our faith is being elevated to be connected with Him. And I think it's essential every day for us, for us to just continuing, if everything, if right now this season is not presenting to us what it's supposed to be presenting to us, it's just having the faith of understanding that, like hope, we're gonna be encountering a miracle in our lives. Like it's even if like in the book of Ecclesiastes talks about meaningless matters, it still ends with glory. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, faith to me, right? It was a way out, right? I remember years ago, 20 something years ago, it was almost like, okay, this is the last chance for me personally. I think that giving faith an opportunity, giving God an opportunity to really impact my life or change my life was what I needed, right? I found myself at the precipice, right? This is the last straw. Like, you know what, God, I don't really believe in you. I don't really care for you or about you. I'm self-sufficient. I was taught to work from a very young age. I show up, I wake up, I'm proactive, I'm ambitious, I'm confident, and those things, those practical things, were not enough at that season of my life, at that time of my life. And of course, my situation, my background allowed certain things to happen within my mom, for instance, that she was scared, right? Wow, I'm going to lose my son, right? Because I was all about the streets previously to coming to God. And that was something that God allowed, right? Because God allows everything, right? So it's not like, oh, God allowed for you to be in the streets and for you to, do the things that you did in the streets. No, I made that choice, but God allowed that. So it was almost like, everything that happens in our lives happens with a purpose, for a reason. I may not had understood that back then, 20 years ago, but it's something that God used, right, for a generation to be impacted, for my mom to come to Christ, right? And for her to spend years praying for me, and me finally allowing myself, right, to give God an opportunity, right? Because this prayer, there's power in prayer, and a mother that prays, it, you know, it's gonna touch God's heart, right? And I'm the result of prayer. So for me, faith was my last chance. And God, I need you. I don't see you. I remember, and I can visualize it right now. I was in 2619 Sedgwick Avenue, where I used to live in the Bronx. And I remember I was in my building, and I was smoking a blunt. You know, I was getting high. I was drinking Heineken.
Again, Sedgwick Avenue.
Huh?
Cedric Avenue?
Sedgwick Avenue.
Kingsbridge, right there.
Kingsbridge. Yeah, you know, and I was praying to God. You know, I was talking to God, and I was like, God, I need you. I recognize that even in my circumstances and my situation, like I'm high, yeah, I feel good. I love it. You know, I'm drinking, but God, there has to be more. And if you don't intervene, that's it for me. Right. And I think that's when things started to happen in my life, where I started to, you know, I found God. I had an encounter with God, and faith has sustained me in every season of my life, right? Faith has been my stronghold in my times of pain, in my times of disappointment, in my times of, wow, God, I can't believe you allow this, but I'm still believing that you're still good. Because it's easy to say, God, you're good, but you haven't gone through anything, right? It's easy to acknowledge God when everything is good. What's harder is for you to acknowledge God when things are not good. That's the hardest part, you know. And when you're able to do that, I think that your heart shifts from that heart of gratitude to that heart of dependence, depending on God, no matter what you see. I'm seeing that I'm hurting. I'm seeing that my life is crumbling in front of my eyes, but God, you're still good. So it's holding on to that, right? Because you got to make it tangible, right? It's like, okay, God, I don't see you, but I'm holding on to this table because I can touch it. But it's also like believing in what God has said and over your life, and being able to, you know, continue trusting in God. Because sometimes it's hard, right? I mean, sometimes I don't trust in God, you know, and I'm being real. You know why? Because doubt comes into my heart. And that doesn't mean that I'm not a man of faith. I have faith. I know where God brought me out from. I know that I'm here because of God. I know that I'm still alive because of him. I know that I'm still walking and I'm still standing despite the times that I've fallen because of God. And if it wasn't because of God, I wouldn't be here, right? Because his promises over my life will continue to be fulfilled regardless of my circumstances. And I think that when you understand that, no matter what you see in front, what giant you see in front, what situation you see in front, that's not greater than God, right? So we say God is good. We say God is my provider. We say that I live by faith, not by sight. You know, we say those things, but in the time of when the storm is passing, you're like, God, where are you? I'm not seeing you right now. I'm not seeing that God that comforts me. I'm not seeing that right now. However, it's a choice that you make. I will continue to believe no matter what. And I'm going to still hold on no matter what. I've fallen, but I'm going to get up. And that's the most important part. It's one of the most important parts about being able to know that you have faith in God. It's that if you fall, as hard as it is, get up. Because God will help you. And God is not a liar. He's going to be there for you, with you. And at the end of the day, men fail us, but God never fails us, right? And that's amazing to me, right? That, wow, I can fail any of you. I can fail my parents, my kids, but God will never fail me. And I think faith for me is absolutely everything. It's what has kept me, right? It has kept me believing and trusting, and I'm still going. It's like that race, right? Yeah. You know, when you know, I used to run. I still run. You know, I find running to be such an amazing tool and a way of escape. to help me mentally and in my faith, right? Because it helps me cope with certain things, right? And running, I learned very early on in my life that running, it's not about how fast you run. It's not. It's about resistance. So when you are in God, it's not how fast you run. It's how resistant you are. Because you know that you will continue running and running. And God, you promised, I'm going to continue running and running and running and running. And things are going to come your way. And you know what's one of the most amazing things? What's one of the amazing things about storms? They're not permanent. They pass. And when they pass, you know you went through everything. And you're like, if I can go through all of this, I can overcome anything. But not me, in my faith with God. So, right. So I think that's extremely important. And to understand that, I think it's fascinating, and obviously you can't do this alone. Can't do this alone. Absolutely not. Right. And it's being able to also impact everywhere and who you're with.
Yeah. Before we go to Frank, I know that you guys. I always like using this example. If you in all like growing up in a Spanish homes, right? They had the footprint,
Oh yeah.
the sign, the picture.
Yes.
But I don't know about you guys. I never read it until I was an adult. I never did.
When Jesus is holding that guy.
No.
On the beach?
All you see is footprints.
Oh, the footprint. Oh, you see. Oh, yeah.
All you see is footprints, and I'm pretty sure most people have never read it because it's so common in our homes that it's like, oh, this is just, it is what it is. You never seen that. Okay, so it's literally just two. You see two steps like walking in the beach, and the sign is called footprints, and it's actually a guy talking to God. And basically saying like, I went through this, like I'm obviously paraphrasing. I went through this, I went through this, I went through this, and you were never there. I went through this, and you were never there. And then at the end of the passage, basically you see those two footprints? Those are my footprints.
Exactly.
I was carrying you throughout the entire time. And that's how faith works. We're struggling, but God is, God is always carrying us. He's always there with us. He's the one that sustains us. He's the one that, and especially how things are nowadays, like without faith, like we can easily succumb to everything that's surrounding us. So I just wanted to add that to what Ronnie was saying.
And that's powerful. Right, that's powerful because that's exactly how I feel. Right, I feel like, you know what, you make a choice. You have a choice. You either let go and let God do. Right, so it's easy to let go, right, because it's like you're not seeing what God promises. God, what happened? You're a God of love. Why am I going through this? God, I'm not seeing provision. You're a provider. Right. And in that time, that's when you have to trust. Right. Speaking of provision, right, I've been in my job almost 12 years. And I look back at my history, and out of those 12 years, I've gotten a raise 10 years, even in deficits in my department. And this year, a handful of doctors got, a raise, and God provided. So it's really understanding, like, you have to believe that, no matter what, God, his promises, his word is like his word, like it's going to come to pass. It's going to be fulfilled. It's just hard. It's hard because it's like, you want to see things right there and then, but when you understand that, that your father, right, as I mentioned, right, my father didn't raise me, so I learned about fatherhood through my heavenly father, not my earthly father, right? So I always say, my father, he got me, and he won't let go of me because I am his son, right? Yeah, you know what? my stepfather was present in my home, but we never had a relationship of father and son. Right. And I understand that, you know what? My father in heaven, he got me. So I'm a trust that because my father knows me as his son, he got me. Right. And I think we share that sentiment, right? I mean, I can share that with all of you guys about fathers and how important the role is.
Yeah.
We all have kids, and how impactful we are to our kids as fathers.
But from my part, faith is a key part of our relationship. And what I learned from you guys is definitely relationship. You know, like Ronnie was saying, I grew up without a father too. My father passed away when I was 9 years old. For me to have a relationship with God, it was like he's far away. It's impossible for me to reach God or to please God. And it wasn't until we met in church. But still, it was hard for me to have an encounter with God, you know, to talk to Him. And I believe, besides faith, that is important in our relationship. I believe also how to not only communicate, but how to have a strong relationship with another man. You know, it was really impactful for me. You know, it was oh wow, like you said, Ronnie. You know, we didn't grow up with our father. Now I have a 14 months old baby, and so many questions come into my mind. I don't want to make the same mistakes, or even I don't know how to do this because I never saw that anywhere. Yeah. And then I felt that God reminds me, you know, hey, but you're not by yourself. You're not alone. You know, and He placed key people in our lives, key relationships, but it will depend on us, like to get access to those relationships, be able to grasp or to get the knowledge needed for us to become everything that He wants for us to do. The moment that we think, you know, oh, I can do this by myself, I think that's when we sink and things become harder. You know, each of us, we know our testimonies. We have so many stories, and because we know our testimonies, our stories, like Ronnie said, each time God was there. You know, and I, as a father now, I have that question mark on me. Well, what if this happened? You know, with my baby or my marriage. What if? But at the same time, you know, like Ronnie said, you know, hey, you're my father. You know, I didn't have maybe a physical father in front of me for all these years, but I see how great you are. I see I have like key people in my life, like you guys. That hey, we are not perfect, but even in our imperfections, we're still searching to please God, you know, and to become better than we were yesterday. And that's what I cherish, our relationship.
Man, cool. I wanted real quick, just so we can go around, like I know some of us know, obviously, but how did you come to God? Like, how did you come to God's feet? I know you shared a little bit, but I know the rest of us, like, how did you come to know Jesus? You know, how did you come to know God? How did God come into your life? You know, like 5 minutes on that, on each of us.
I mean, I'll be very brief. I came to God because I liked the girl who's my wife now.
Wait, your wife.
I said it was, yeah,
So
like I said, it was
she
my
hooked
wife
you in.
now. I really had no ambitions. I always had God in my life, but I didn't have a relationship. I have knowledge of Him. There's a big difference. My grandma always told me about God. You know, she's very hardcore. She was into it. I mean, I'm just as hardcore as she is now.
Yeah.
But I was hooked by a woman that I call my wife now, Jaciel. And I went to church. I never forget it, hungover, because from the night before. I think I never told you guys that, did I?
I know you twisted.
I was the day that Jaciel told me to go to church. The day before, I actually went to a party and I was drinking, smoking hookah, everything in the books. And I woke up with a massive hangover. And I'll never forget that day because it was like 4:30. It was the day of recibimiento del encounter for the females. And you remember because they were divided before. And I was like, please don't text me. Please don't text me. Because I was going to be one of those guys that'd be like, yeah, I'll go, and I'll never go. But God in his goodness utilized Jaciel to tell me, to come. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so hungover. And I'm here, and I basically was like, if I don't go, she's not gonna give me a chance, and I'll probably blew an opportunity of actually being with this girl. So I went in my old hangover powers, and I'll never forget that I actually was throwing up while the girls were walking in the church bathroom.
What? I know that.
Libertad, and I'm like, bleh. Oh my God, man. Yeah, dude. But I even tried to clean the toilet because I thought I wasn't gonna make it. But yeah, it was that was actually the day that I accepted Christ. I continued going after that. I wasn't really into it, but once again, because I liked the woman that I call my wife, not Jaciel, I decided to go to my encounter. And then I went to my encounter with asking her this question, like, if I come back from the encounter, will you tell me if you like me or not? Because she tells me, oh, I'm not going to tell you just yet. I'm not going to tell you. Just go to your encounter. I was like, is this woman like using me to like,
Oh, yes.
yeah, dude, playing games. Like, I go to my encounter and she'd be like, yeah, I just wanted you to accept Christ. You know what I mean?
Got him.
I was like, wow, what a waste of money. But no, I had those thoughts. I really did.
Yeah.
So like I went to my encounter and I completely really had an encounter with God there. It wasn't even like sometimes we think that God sometimes the things that we want, we're going to serve God when we want to, but when he's ready and when he needs us, he will come and get us. You know what I mean? Like even in the moments that we least expected. I had no idea that I was actually going to be this committed after prior to this encounter, almost 10, 12, 13 years or 15 years I've been in Christ. All because I wanted to go to the encounter just so that I could get the woman that I wanted to be with. You know what I mean? And what I did not know was that God had plans for me. And I found those plans that weekend. I even found, I even had a vision of being with my wife that weekend, and it wasn't emotional because sometimes we confuse it. We get emotionally bounded by thinking that that's the because sometimes we have to be scared. We have to be careful because we could confuse emotion with spirituality. And I knew 100% like that was gonna be my wife. The Lord revealed that soul revelation. But that weekend was like the legit weekend where I was like, you know what? Yeah, this is my lifestyle. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I think Jaciel, if you're listening to me, for kind of like hooking me into a weekend getaway that actually saving my life, believe it or not.
Yeah, I shared a little bit, right? So, but before that, right, I think I was about 15, 16. That's when I really first started going to church. And I was going to church because my aunt Nereida would pick me up, right? And go to church. She would go to church, and also I was there. But then after that, I left church, and a few years passed, and for me, it was almost the same as Gio. It was my aunt Nereida, right? She not my mom, which is pretty interesting, right? Because I wasn't receptive about hearing the word of God from my mom, but I would be receptive on hearing the word of God or anything that had to do with God with my aunt. So God used my aunt Nereida as a tool to invite me to the retreat, to the encounter that they do in church. And for me, I went with an open heart. I went with an open mind because I was already like God, I need an intervention. Like if you don't intervene in my life, it's going really like downhill for me, right? So
Yeah, because I heard you wasn't easy.
No, absolutely not. I wasn't easy. I definitely wasn't a piece of cake. I was definitely a very tough person. Someone who definitely, and I discovered a lot of things, and most importantly, it was that father figure, right? And I learned a lot of things in the streets. I learned, right, that as a man, as a person, you don't cry. As a person, as a man, you're not in tune with your emotions, right? So I always suppress those things in my life. I, I wasn't supposed to express the feeling that I missed my dad, or that I wanted to have a dad, right? So, definitely, I definitely wasn't easy at all, and I've always been a very strong-minded individual, right? So that helped me in a way to really cope with the things that I had to deal with. So definitely, I was the result of that retreat in church, and I went with an open heart. I went with an open mind, and I remember that was in November. I think it was November 2002 or November 2003. I was 20, and that was the best decision that I've made in my life, right? And of course, after that, that's when things start really to kind of start unraveling, right? Because it's just that retreat was only a tool, and then after that, it's almost like the work starts.
Yeah.
And and I'm thankful for like my aunt, right? Because she would always like invite me, like, oh, si tú quieres, Ronnie, and it's funny because I didn't know, but my mom had paid for the encounter without me even saying that I was going to the encounter. I remember she spoke to Hector Mello, and I didn't know the story. She went to church. She spoke with Hector. They told her like, oh no, he's not going. You can't pay. And she's like, no, I want to pay. He's going, like in faith. And surely enough, I did go. I did go. So I do have. I'm thankful for my aunt, who's a bold woman who believed, right, who have faith, and she had faith in seeing me there, even before speaking to me. But like, for instance, my mom came to Christ through me, through my situation, right? Because she said, nothing that I'm doing is helping my son. So something higher than me or more powerful than me needs to intervene. And it was God, right? So how amazing is that through my situation, my lifestyle, my life, my mom came to Christ, and and for a few years she was praying for me, right, for me to come to Christ. And I believe that I didn't experience even greater, even worse things in the streets because my mom was praying, right? But it was almost like I challenged God, and I challenged death. It was almost like, you know what? It's not enough smoking weed. I want to smoke a joint. I want to pop an e-pill, and I'm going to drink a bottle of honey. So what's good, God? Where you at? Show me what you got for me. So it was almost like that. Like, you know what? Let me test you. Let me see if you really exist. And that was my mindset, because a lot of the things that I experienced, I blamed God. Like my father being killed, I blamed God. I was like, hey, this guy, this guy is like, he's the most simplest guy in the world, and you like take him away. Like, I don't get it. So there was a lot of pain, obviously, and I didn't want anything to do with God. So my mom would try to talk to me about God, and I was like, do not talk to me about God. You take your God somewhere else. And she would put Christian music, and I would disconnect the radio and hide the radio. And she would put Televisión Cristiana, and I would hide it. And, I would not allow her to speak to me about God. Right. And that was my heart. That was my mind. That was my attitude, but how good is God, right? That even through those walls, right, God was able to like an arrow, like, you know what, this kid is mine, and I remember clearly, going to parties in the boondocks in the Bronx, drunk, high, arrebatado, and walking home alone at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, breaking night, me walking alone through the streets. And I would get home. And I remember friends of mine from my building Tell me the next day, yo, Casper. They used to call me Casper, the friendly ghost. I opened your door from your apartment. You were twisted, my bro. And I was like, really? They were like, yup. I walked you, I opened the door for you, and you went inside. You know, so even those individuals, I thank God for them. I thank God for them because God allowed that. You know, God put people in my life that even when I was tempting death, and I experienced death several times from alcohol intoxication, and I'm healthy. I'm here with you guys, and it's only God. Like God does that. You know, my lungs are functioning well. Everything works well. You know, alguna vez se me va, you know, como que la mente, like, I got all those years of smoking weed. You know, but I laugh about that now, but wow, God is really good. God is really good. You know, and his goodness, wow, he is good. He's definitely good.
Well, for me, it was when I was in Peru. I was 9 years old after my father passed away. Um, I had so many questions, and I started asking those questions to God directly. And it was small things, it's like small details. Like nobody knew. It was only between me and God. Like, Father God, you know, I need this. I want this. Uh, for my mom, for my sister. And it happened. When those situations happened in front of me, I was like, oh, nobody knew about this. And I asked only God. I didn't ask my mom. I didn't ask anybody. So that's how my relationship with God started when I was 9 years old, back in Peru. Then when I was 16, 17, I came to New York. And it was through church, these encounters. Well, technically it was through these groups that you, Ronnie, you were my leader. Yes. And for me, it was the fact that from Peru, the only person that can talk about God was the sacerdote,
Priest, yeah.
the priest. And at that time, watching you and other people, you know, sharing about the love of God, that you guys were around my age, I was like, oh wow, that was impactful. You know, it's not like it wasn't like a ritual. You know, it was like what we're doing right now, talking about God, and that impacted my life, and it started my new journey to knowing God and you know, giving my life to Him and searching for more.
Awesome.
Ese es mi líder.
Oh, ya lo otro.
It's my leader.
No, like I think mine, it's a little like it feels like I've been a Christian my entire life. That's how it feels. So like just so you guys can understand, like my mom's aunt, she was like they used to call her La Señorita because you know, she never got married, she never got kids. And she was, you know, when the evangelists, you know, like the Protestants started going to DRs, like she was like one of the first, like in the country, like to convert, like, you know, to like a Protestant, to like, you know, like Pentecostal and all of that stuff. So so from my mom's side, like that, like they've been Christian for a long time. So that's why I said earlier, like I feel like since I can have like some reason, I've been around church, you know. So I didn't know that my mom knew, you know, Pastor Ben, where the church we at one point attended, and then my uncle grew up with him. On top of that, and my mom used to go to the church that Pastor Ben's pastor used to pastor. So it was like there was like little things over there, you know. And I got to go to the church before I came to the US and stuff like that. But I never like committed or anything like that. I never accepted Christ. I remember because my sister would go every single Sunday, but I never would. You know, like and when I came to the US, I was 11. I remember my mom telling me like, "Oh, look for him, look for him." Like look back for Pastor Ben. And I was like, sure. Never happened. You know, but it wasn't until I was 19 that I needed a kidney transplant. So, you know, my mom offered herself. They gave her a humanitarian visa, and then you know, she came to donate her kidney, and because she already had those relationships, you know, she uh, she got them to come. Like for me, like that was like the scariest thing in my life. I remember because it was in December. I was 19, and my mom couldn't be with me because she was the one giving me the kidney, so I was by myself. My dad was not there, so it was me in a room. You know, basically, listen, we're gonna give you a kidney. This is a lot of saving. But I remember signing the document because I'm an adult already, right? And you know, when you sign you sign basically it's kind of like a waiver. And in the waiver, they always tell you, you know, there's a possibility of death. You know, in that little line right there, the possibility of death in the fine print when before you sign. Yeah, exactly. Um, you know, it's a scary thing, you know, especially when you're not when you're, you know, a young adult that don't know better and stuff like that. And I remember like Pastor Ben coming to the hospital bed. And I'm like I was so scared, man. Like I was like, man, I feel like if tomorrow I don't wake up, that's gonna be a problem. You know, that's how scared I was. And I remember Pastor Ben asking me if I would accept Christ. You know, I did it out of like fear, not because I wanted to meet God or anything. I was like, well, you know, if I'm gonna die, might as well go somewhere good, right? You know. So that like literally that was my mentality. Yeah, like, that was my mentality. You know, like you know, let's give God a chance if I'm gonna die, right? But nah, I survived, and I remember because I was living with my dad, and my dad used to live in Jersey, but I had the surgery I had in Westchester County. You know, and I remember like once I got home, I was staying at my aunt's. But you know, like all my relationships, everything, you know, like they were like in Jersey because I had moved there, so I had like nobody on this side. So my mom would be like let's go to church, and I was so bored and like so out of my mind because there was nothing I could do. So I was like, whatever, fine. And that's how I ended up going to church. And it's crazy because I remember like meeting Sterling and Isaac. That's what the first guys that I met going to church. And like within like a month, I think like they moved to the basement, which you guys got to see the basement. And by that was like in April, like that was the April right after my kidney transplant. And by that April, I was so involved. I don't even know how it happened. I was just there, you know. And every Friday we'll go to the cell groups, you know, and stuff like that. And honestly speaking, I just got involved, you know, and it felt like it was like I was meant to do that, you know. And I don't remember like struggling like to blend in. I don't remember that I had to think about it too much. You know, I accepted Christ, you know, out of fear, but I lived the life at the moment that I thought that I was should have been living like with Christ without hesitation, you know. And that it's been like that ever since, pretty much, you know, except for the last couple of years that things have slowed down a little bit, COVID and all that other stuff. But yeah, like I came to Christ, and you know, I'm not saying that I never look back, but it's, you know, I como decimos en español, like, you know, he flaqueado y cosas así, but always going back to the source, right? You know, regardless of anything. And yeah, like I think that that journey has had its ups and downs, but it's always been the same journey. Like, you know, I don't. You guys are too young. There was I forgot this David Carradine. You know, like there was a show back in the 80s, and it was called, well, in Spanish it was called Kung Fu. La leyenda continúa. You know, so Kung Fu, the legend continues. And I feel like that's how my life has been, like with Christ. Like I came out of fear, but I knew that it was gonna happen regardless, because like God was already putting the pieces even before I came to Him. And I feel like, you know, the legend continues, like life continues no matter what. And that's how I ended up coming to Christ. Yeah.
And now it's good. It's good to hear like the stories again. You know, like oh yeah.
You come to Christ, cuz.
I came because I shared it in a few episodes back. If you go to episode 2 or 1,
I don't remember. That was a long
but
time
no,
ago.
I came. No, I came to Christ. You know, my girlfriend dumped me, and then I was depressed, and then she had invited me, at my ex at that time invited me to go to one of the youth groups, and then now they have prayed for me. And then I was like, after they prayed for me, that went away. That peace, that, you know, that goes beyond all, you know, all understanding, came over me, and like I felt full. I felt light as a feather. I felt like, wow, I never felt this in my life. And I was like, yo, there's more to this, you know. So I just kept going, and then started reading the Bible, and then I just reading the Bible and reading Proverbs, and just mainly applying it to my life. Like when I started doing that, I feel like I was making more money. I felt like I had more peace in my life. My relationship with my mom got better. You know, like it was like this new journey, right? And I was like, yo, this is it. And yeah, ever since then, 4 kids later.
I like that episode. I remember now,
Yeah.
because it's Asara. Like she's always like.
Oh yeah, she's
Who was the girlfriend? Calvin. Who was the girlfriend?
Awkward.
You guys know, right?
Do they know? Not yeah. It's Jackie.
My Jackie. Yes.
Yes. It's Jackie. Yeah. I did. And then she invited me to the youth group.
Well, she's still inviting you.
Yeah, she still invited me. And I was like, you know, fine, let me go. Let me go. And then no, I mean that part probably. But it wasn't like it was like 50-50. Like, let me go, I'm sad, but let me go.
Yeah.
And then, you know, everything changed from there. Yeah. Yeah.
It was like a million years ago.
Yeah, it was over 15 years ago.
It's crazy.
I wanted just to, I guess, one last question to pivot, and I wanted to talk about like parenting. I know we all here have children now, and I wanted to just go around and see how has parenting and how has having children changed your life? You know, like how now you have children, what's different now? You know, like has it been better, worse? What has changed the most in your life, or what have you learned the most after having children? You know, so if anybody
You
wants
guys want me to
share.
start? Let's see how being a parent change. Well, the first thing I think I like being a father, it's I don't know anything. Like that's how it feels,
Facts.
you know.
Because we didn't get a book. We didn't get. No one taught us nothing.
No,
Demon.
you know, and like I've realized how little and how much I need to learn. You know, when it comes to patience, when it comes to love, when it comes to you know, they we try to understand like God's love, like which is virtually impossible. Not virtually, it is impossible, because when what we think it's right, like right here, he's like all the way up here, you know, like his love is incomprehensible. Like we can put a, like, yeah, like it's immeasurable, like. So, you know, to try to understand like the father's perspective of how he loves us, the idea is to reflect that on our children. And what I have learned is that I am nowhere near that. I I am I struggle a lot, like with being a father. um I lose my cool a lot, which is interesting because I'm generally a very like chill and very calm person, pero me sacan de quicio. Like everything that I never thought I would do, I would like as a parent, like I'm doing, you know. And like, so I'm learning a lot of things about myself that I didn't think I needed to learn because they never came up. Um, you know, like anger and stuff like that, because like I never thought that I was an angry person, because I don't think I am. But you know, like dealing like with children has brought that out of me, which shows that there was, you know, there's still a lot of things that God has to work in my heart. And you know, I just think that whoever goes into parenting thinking that they know everything, which, you know, there are parents that are amazing, like from the get-go and stuff like that, like there's no doubt about it. But I think it is most common that most parents struggle, you know, especially fathers. Because I think, like, you know, like I think about my dad, you know, like I
But you can't deny, I think we're doing a little bit better job than our past.
but it's the thing is, like, it's the comparison. Like, if you want to go like that, then my dad did better than his dad. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like my dad, my grandfather abandoned my dad because my grandfather was young. So, you know, back in DR, back in those days, in like in the 40s and stuff like that, you know, it was out of wedlock. So that was horrible, you know. And then my dad was dark skinned, you know. And you know, in our culture there's a lot of like colorism. And my dad felt like the gravity of colorism, like within his own family, you know. And then by the time my grandfather attempted to create a relationship, my dad was already an adult, and he already had his mindset and stuff like that. But my dad was like, for me, my dad, I didn't grow up with him until I came to the U.S. But technically speaking, he was there. He was providing. You know, there was no emotional bonding whatsoever. You know, there was no, like, you know, we would talk and stuff, and now we enjoy his conversations and stuff like that. But it's not like we bonded like in love and stuff like that, you know, which is something that we're attempting to do with our kids, you know, showing them love regardless and stuff like that. But, you know, again, if this is by comparison, you know, yes, we're doing a little bit better, but that's because our parents didn't know better and their parents didn't know better. So, you know, so it's like, so it has been a cycle that obviously we're trying to break, but it's still difficult to break because of everything that has come through. So I just think that, you know, the best lesson that I have learned is I thank God for my wife, because without her, I think I would have like killed him, you know. not literally, but that's how you feel, you know. But that's how he feels. She has the patience of a saint. But yeah, like I think the biggest thing that I have learned, it's that I have a lot to learn. That's my thing.
Parenting and fatherhood, right?
Fatherhood.
Kel's fatherhood, when I think of fatherhood, I think of one shoe doesn't fit all, right? So, you know, parenting that works for me may not work for other parents, but as a father, and it's definitely so. Before I used to think, okay, well, you know what? What's my example, right? Because I didn't experience parenting. So what's my dynamic going to be like? And I'm a pretty, I consider myself a pretty practical individual, meaning that, if one thing doesn't work, I like to look for another alternative. So even if that doesn't work, let me find another alternative. As frustrating as it is, let me see what works for my children. I have two daughters, and I have Braden and a son, right? And it's different, right? The way that I parent my daughters is not the same way I parent my son. There's an emotional component that is different as a father towards my daughters and as a father towards my son, right? When I think of my son, I think of not necessarily, oh, let me give him what I didn't receive. I don't use that. I think that's a mistake, right? That our culture taught us. I want to give my children everything I didn't receive. That's a mistake, personally speaking.
Yeah.
I don't share that sentiment. I don't do it with my kids because it doesn't teach them about the worth of things, right? It's also learning no. It's also learning structure. It's also learning boundaries. Why? Because I've learned through parenting that it's what's important is to empower them, right? And I've learned tolerance. One thing I've learned through my kids, through my daughters and my son, mostly through my daughters, right? Because it's like, they're very emotional, very dramatic, sometimes too dramatic, right? And I'm like, what in the world? Like, why are you so dramatic? Like, stop, So it's like you also have to have posture, right, when you're dealing with them. And it's also dealing with the different seasons that they're in. Like my daughter's, she's going to turn 11. And there's questions about things that she's going to go through. And for me as a dad, right, and as a single father, right, it scares me, right, because I'm the type of individual that I am present in their lives, and if I don't know how to do something, I'm gonna learn it, right, and it's also being aware that my daughters are going to go through through changes in their lives as girls, that as a father I need to be prepared. It's not that taboo, right? Like what in our past our parents didn't teach us, we can't say, well, I wasn't taught that, so therefore I'm not going to speak about that. Or whether, when my daughter gets into her menstruation, like, oh no, the mom is going to take care of that. No, I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to teach her as best as I can. So it's also understanding that that's not off limits. I'm her father. And my son, I'm his father. So it's being able to kind of like wrap that around your mind that as a father, you also have a say in things of your daughters and things of your son. Maybe culturally speaking, oh, that's the mom's responsibility. But why? But why is it only the mom's responsibility? Right? That could be the father's and the mother's responsibility, because we're both supposed to give 100 and 100. I don't believe in that. Well, I'm the dad, I'm gonna give 50, and the mom's gonna give 50. That equals to 100. No, I'm gonna give 100 to my kids, and learn. I've also learned through my kids, right, that they are so resilient, right? And I say that is because it doesn't matter how many times I may make a mistake. It's almost like they come to me and say, Papi, it's okay. Like, I forgive you. I understand that you spoke in a tone, not screaming. It was like a firm tone, but I understand that you're doing that because we're not listening, right? And you know what? We understand. And also having conversations with them. I wasn't too emotional with my kids. Like, hi, me, homie, hi, yeah. I wasn't that father. I wasn't that person. That wasn't me. I would speak to my kids like real people, no, don't do that. I'm learning more, and I'm learning this through my daughters, to be a little bit more sensitive, right? Because girls are sensitive. And I'm also learning to be more vulnerable, right? Even to myself as a man, as a father, You know, my daughters have taught me to be vulnerable, especially my youngest one, right? My youngest one, she's very affectionate. My oldest, you know, when she needs something, when she wants a hug, she comes and gets a hug, and that's it. That's all she needs. Every kid is different. My son, he's my son. Papi, I love you. I need a kiss. Okay, bye. Thank you. That's it. I can't, I can't assume that they're all going to be the same, because it's not. It's not going to be the same. They're all different, right? And I'm not inclined to one more than the other. They're all different. But my love towards them is the same. I love them 100% the same. And I think that, you know, it is very challenging. You know, parenting is very challenging. However, I think that if we learn as we go on day by day, and also doing practical things, and also speaking, like I'm in the habit of asking my kids a lot of questions. And most of my kids, they are so good communicating, verbalizing their feelings, that has taught me to also be able to express my feelings to them. Like whether it's Eden, or whether it's Gina Lee, or whether it's Braden. Sometimes Braden may speak to me in a way that before I would have been like, I know, déjame pasárselo. No, that's not happening. Listen, what you told me hurt my feelings. I don't agree with you. I don't accept that, and I'm not tolerating that. I hate you. Okay, hate me now. Hate me. Okay? But what does Braden do? Shortly after, he'll come to me and say, Papi, I want to say sorry. I didn't mean that. I was mad. So it's okay, right? Like when you say that anger, right? Before, that anger in me also, like, because, you know, I also dealt with anger in my life. You know, it's almost like seeing him and seeing that he is coming to me and acknowledging that he was wrong, but it was because he was mad. Because being angry is not bad. There's anger that, okay, you can get angry, right? There's a Bible verse that says, right? In your anger, do not sin. What does that say? You can get angry, right? It's just not sinning in your anger. But sometimes we don't know how to internalize anger, right? And my son, you know, he can get angry, and he can immediately, shortly after, because of the relationship that we have, and because I don't lose my posture or my coolness or my tolerance, porque ya lo de nosotros es tolerancia, esta vaina no es paciencia, es tolerancia, right? He comes to me and says, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. You know, and like, you know, my kids have said some things that I'll be like, wow, I know you're saying that now, and because I'm correcting you now, you're expressing yourself that way, but that doesn't mean that you're right, because what you're doing is that you're hurting my feelings, and we respect each other. And I love that about them. You know, they're not perfect kids. They're not. Right. But I love that they can express themselves, and we can have a connection and grow and learn from each other. Like I learn from my kids a lot. A lot. The way they interact, the way that they're with me, you know, and I love spending time with them, because I didn't have that, right? So when I'm with them, I always think, wow, this is what it feels like, right, to have Papi around, right? And sometimes I'm not saying anything. I'm just there with them, right? And sometimes, especially my son, he's you know, sometimes he's a funny kid. You know, he's like, Papi. I'm like, okay. If that's the way, right? If that's the way that he expresses his feelings towards me, then okay. You know, but they're all different, and I think that, you know, I think one of the most important lessons for me as a dad, it's just really kind of like observing them, right? And you know, and really kind of like just there's no manual. There's no manual, you know, there's no right and wrong answer here. This is not, I'm right, you're wrong, you're my son, you say what I say, what goes, you know, what I say is what goes, and that's it. No, they have a voice. And I think that when you understand that, I think the dynamic is pretty dope. It's pretty cool to see that. And there's so much, like Bram says, there's so much still that I have to learn. I feel like, yeah, my kids are going on 11, 8, and 6, and I still have so much to learn, you know, and I love that, and I want that. I want to learn more from them. And I think that's also important. Stir.
Officer Santos.
I think to
Oh.
be brief, I was one of those that had parents and I had a mom and a dad in my life my whole life. However, my dad kind of raised me on this old school way of being a dad. You know what I mean? Los hombres hacen esto, los hombres hacen lo otro. The famous la mujer que cocina y el hombre que, the alpha and the beta of the world. I mean,
The macho.
yeah, the macho man, and
The up and the beta.
so for me, I actually thank God that I met him before my son was born, because I was going to introduce what I was being comfortable with to my new relationship with whoever, with my wife Jaciel and stuff, because otherwise I would have never known how toxic it was. You know what I mean? My dad is a great dad. I still have a relationship with him. He's always been present. He's an amazing father. But he doesn't. One thing about my dad is that he didn't have his dad, so he learned what he could learn and adapted the only way he knew how to, by listening to how a man is supposed to be in accordance to how the world says. So when I met Christ, I actually understood that that's not the way it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be is basically understanding them, being stern, being a father, obviously being present, like Ronier said, just being present. You know what I mean? Because that means a lot. But also understanding that they're a life that you created, and that they're gonna develop their own opinions, that they're going to, that they're not gonna be what you want them to be. You could support them, you could encourage them, but if they don't want it, then you can't. You know what I mean? Like, so one of the things that helped me understand as far as being a father is just being a support factor to them. You know what I mean? And just just letting them know that, hey, I'm here. And when you correct them, I understand, because one of the things I do when I correct, I know when I'm wrong. You know what I mean? As a father. So I correct them the old school way. Like my dad, he'll be like, "Tú tienes hambre, vámonos comer, ven," after he corrected me. No, I sit down, I have conversations with them. I validate who they are, and I tell them, hey, listen, dad was mad, and I wanted to apologize that I spoke to you this way, but you understand why I did this, right? And I think my kids respect me a lot today as we speak. It's because I validate who they are as as human beings. And when it comes to being a father, I think adapting that into your lifestyle is essential. And it has taught me that the importance of understanding what you created. It has taught me, that there is something to look forward to every day when you get out of work. Like my son, he texts now, so we text like every.
Como?
We have
Hit you up on FaceTime like, yo, papi.
Oh, he calls me on FaceTime. We text each other throughout the whole day, pretty much. What you doing? He actually writes. Like, I can show you the conversations.
Wow. That's dope.
He
That's
writes
dope.
text messages clearly, and like he doesn't, be like, yo, what you doing? Nothing here. I'm like, I'm talking to a 7-year-old via text message. I actually even thought for his birthday getting him a phone, but I think not yet. But it's
I think it's too early.
yeah.
Because
No, but
when you were 7, you had a phone when you were 7.
Yeah, you see, but you see the conversations that I have with him, and you think I'm having a conversation with a grown man. I think also being a father has taught me how to teach them to have their own proper independence. I mean, let's just be honest, we're not going to be around forever. There's a saying that kids bury their fathers and their mothers. You know what I mean? So one of the things that being a dad has taught, that being a father so far has taught me, is to teach them how to be independent and understand that, if I do it, you could do it. You know what I mean? If I could succeed, you could succeed.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah. My blood is in their veins. So if I did it, they could do it. And to be brief, the last thing I could say is like how you guys were saying, I still don't know at all. And that's a great thing. You know why? because it gives you joy to understand that it gives you the eagerness to want to learn more for your kids. You know what I mean? To learn more, to learn how to be a better father, learn how to understand. It gives you, at least for me, it gives me the joy and eagerness to want to know more. It's like a drug, or I don't know, like something that it's like a drug, like it's like an addiction. When you don't know it all, it makes you addicted to want to know more so that you could provide more for your kids.
Well, I'm the new father. Oh,
New daddy.
the new daddy, and it's new for us. For Lizzie and I, everything is new. One of the things that I can share is that um, I still have kind of like a fear, and like you was saying, is because I think for what happened to me, I lost my father when I was 9 years old. So the conversations I have with Lizzie, my wife, is I want to be present. You know, I don't know, and I don't know what is in me. You know, that I have that question mark. You know, I don't know how long I'm gonna be with my daughter, and because I don't know that time that I'm gonna be with her, our future kids. I just want to be present. You know? At the same time, like Ronnie was saying, I don't sympathize here. You know that for as of parents, we have to give everything to our kids because we didn't have it. That's definitely not our mentality with Lizzie. We just wanted to give her love, support, be present, and for her to develop her own character. You know, I think it's really important because we have seen that sometimes parenting is like we want our kids to be like us or the way we think that they should be. One of the things that I have seen in you guys, you know, you guys have shared is that you guys are giving that freedom to your kids, but freedom where you guys are like correcting them, forming them, loving them, and I see the kids. You know, the kids speak like Brian always says. You know, actions speak louder than words, and yeah. So I just wanted to do that with my baby girl. You know.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And
Charles with his tribe.
my tribe, yeah, I got 4 kids and
His basketball team.
my basketball team. Nah, but I've learned like for me, it's taught me to be less about myself. You know, having children, and me growing up, it was just me and my sister, right? So now, like, I've always wanted more kids, and this like it's fruitful. You know, like you guys know, it's fruitful. It's like it's enriching to have these children, these little people who love you. You know, unconditionally, and they forgive you and they give you second chances, and you know you have to correct them and you have to be their coach, so it kind of like molds you too at the same time, and you're in this new position that you've never been in, so it's like you're learning to be, you know, a better brother, a better friend to them, you know, trying to be balanced, you know, teach them the right way in God and how to like be independent, you know, and listen to them. And because growing up, I remember my parents didn't listen to me. They're like, no, tú vas a hacer esto y ya. Like, you know, it was very like black and white. They didn't build bond. Well, for me, they didn't build a bond with me, you know, as a friendship at the same time, or like Gio was saying, you know, listening to them and you said giving them value, validating, and just putting that into play. You know, like it teaches you so much about yourself, and at the same time building you as a man. And I'm learning to like even like there's a balance. Like I feel like trying to like give myself to my children, but at the same time having that, knowing that I don't want my children to be my all, right? Because you know, God, I want God to be my all, right? And I want to be that leader for them, but they're not my life. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like you want to like they're part of your life, and it's for a season because they're gonna grow up and they're gonna be, you know, they're gonna move on to they're gonna have their own family, and praying that, you know, I do my best to be a great father, a great leader, and then when they're on their own, you know, obviously they make their own choices, you know, and we don't know what's gonna happen in this journey, but you try your best, and I learned so much, you know, in that aspect, to be a better father, and growing and wanting to. I want to be that leader that I want to do God's calling in my life, right? To like, and not have them as my world, but like they know, oh, Papi follow what God said, you know, and Papi follow God's ways, and you know, like and not to get those things twisted, like, you know, having children as your life, because some people do that, you know, the children are their lives. That's what may be that, and then they don't have to. Let's say they move on, or something happened, the kids pass away, God forbid, and it breaks them, you know, and but now they're a gift from God, and we just want to surrender them to God, and they're in our lives for a season. Pero no, the children, man, the blessing is a blessing. Like the Bible says, it's a blessing. So yeah. Facts. And now, guys, if you guys have anything else to say, I want to just wrap up, and I wanted to close in prayer too. You cool? I want to close in prayer, just us here as in our moment together, and just thank God. You know, God, I want to thank you, God, for this moment together as we're here in our brotherhood, in our getaway, and we just want to say thank you, God, because it's another moment that we get to be together, God. We just pray, God, that you reveal yourselves more in our lives. You teach us more to be better men, to be better fathers, God, and to walk in faith with you, Lord. And we just pray, God, that you just reveal yourself more in our lives. We want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to each man that's here, God. I pray, God, that you pour yourself more into their lives, and you spark something new in their lives. And God, we just want to say we love you. Without you, God, we are nothing. We want to say thank you, God. And you are our leader, God. We just want to follow you. And I just thank God and thank all these brothers that are here. Amen. Amen. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So no, guys, Los guys, 2023 getaway.
The Rangers.
Hey.
I'm the Black Ranger.
I'm the White Ranger.
Huh?
And the Blue Ranger.
I guess red. I'm the orange because that's my favorite color.
They get Brahma's bulk.
Who?
Bulk and skull.
Pero no, guys.
The bully.
That's a wrap for this podcast, and we just want to say subscribe if you like the content that we've been sharing. Check out the rest of the videos that we have in store, and follow us on all the social medias that we have: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and peace out. Peace. Bye.